Hey guys, welcome to another Was It Woke video. So today the film that I'm going to be running through my Was It Woke criteria is the latest Jennifer Lawrence romantic comedy, No Hard Feelings. I'm going to keep this one fairly brief as I don't think this is the kind of film that has too many details to it. It's fairly straightforward and black and white, and it's pretty straight up about where it is and isn't woke, and so I'm going to detail those for you today as quickly as I can. And yeah, I think you might be interested to see where it falls on the wokeness scale. Quick recap of how I do this. I have my 5 criteria, which is number 1, racial diversity, 2, LGBTQ representation, 3, toxic masculinity / feminist messaging, 4, traditions bad, progressivism good, and 5, anti-capitalism / pro-socialism. So I'm going to cover those 5 things and where this film falls on each of those scales, and then average it out at the end to determine how woke it is. Number 1, racial diversity. So there is no forced diversity in this film whatsoever. The film is set in a town called Montauk in New York, I believe, in America, and it is just basically a small beach town, and it is presented accurately as far as I am aware in terms of what it is. It is a white dominated town, mainly white people, and it's exactly the way it's presented in the film. And it's got its rich people, it's got its middle class people, and just like how the place actually is in real life. And so yeah, I'd give racial diversity for this film a 0 out of 10. Number 2 is LGBTQ representation. So straight up, there is no LGBTQ representation in this film whatsoever. And even if there was, that wouldn't mean that it's inherently woke. It would have depended on how it was presented. But I guess the only kind of mention of it throughout the whole film is one moment where Jennifer Lawrence's character is talking to some younger, basically students who are just graduating high school, and they're more sensitive to the whole topic. And so she makes a joking comment about 2 guys doing it together and they get offended. And so then there's a whole thing about her saying she's not homophobic or whatever. So that's really the only reference that there is to it in the whole film. So for that, I'd give it a 1 out of 10. Third is toxic masculinity and feminist messaging. So starting off, this was the point that I was most curious about how woke it was going to be exactly, because this is very much the film subject matter where you have a very much beta male as the main character and a dominant female as the other main character. So it's a complete gender role reversal in terms of the traditional norms. But what you might be pleased to hear is that it plays very similarly to other previous films that had the same trope of the beta male and dominant female, these completely different characters coming together and falling in love. We've seen this trope done many times, and it does it safely the same way as those other films. It doesn't try to subvert it even further and make the male character even worse or the female character even more dominant. It's just a straight up, very similar to those mid-thousands rom-coms that did the same thing. And so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised in that regard that they kept it like that. And on top of that, they actually gave them both arcs that kind of made her more kind of traditionally feminine, but also made him a little more masculine too. So it was nice to see them grow in that way and kind of trend more towards the gender norms, I guess. That said, there were definitely moments in this film where the main male character was definitely very beta and the main female character was very alpha, I guess. So look, there was very much a setup of the gender role reversal where you would have to consider that even 20 years ago this would be somewhat woke too. And so if I remove myself from the polarization of today's world and entertainment and how everything is going woke, and I just kind of look at it objectively, I would have to give this one a 3 out of 10 for toxic masculinity and feminist messaging. Fourth is traditions bad and progressivism good. So both main characters are 100% straight up, very progressive characters in the sense that they are basically, gender role reversed, and which is the setup of the whole film. So that said, I guess that is a reference to tradition in that it's not a traditional male or your traditional female by any means. That doesn't mean that it's inherently woke, because they, as I mentioned, they both go on arcs that both lead them more towards their more traditional gender roles. And so with all that said, I have to give this particular criteria a 2 out of 10. Last but not least is number 5, anti-capitalism / pro-socialism. So this one in the end turned out to be the most woke out of all the 5 criterias. So the main and common complaint that Jennifer Lawrence's character Maddie has throughout the film is that there's too many rich people moving to her town, which are causing her property taxes to go up and are hence putting her in the situation that she's in, where she's at the risk of losing her home. And so it's very much an anti-rich message throughout this whole film. It disparages the whole idea of being rich and that it's just completely, unvirtuous and whatever the word is. And so it's like, yeah, it's very much painting rich people as bad and a problem and that they ruin any place that they go to. Whilst that could be considered anti-capitalist, and I think it is, there is no, on the flip side, there's no pro-socialism message as an alternative to it. It doesn't claim that they should be getting free benefits from the government or anything like that. It's just mainly about ragging on the rich and complaining about them as her main problem. And so with that said, for this fifth criteria, I have to give it a 4 out of 10 for wokeness. And so the total scores of my 5 criteria equals 10. You take that 10 and you divide it by the 5 criteria and you equal with 2. And 2 on my scale is equivalent to not woke. And so it's knocking on the door of a little woke, which would have been 2.6 to 5, but it's not quite there. And so I'm happy and pleased to say that this is not a woke film. It has some slight references here and there, but not enough to justify calling it a woke film. It is very much a throwback to rom-coms of the mid-thousands, and I'm happy to say that I enjoyed seeing it too, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much it lacked wokeness, particularly with what we see in a lot of modern films. So there you have it. Jennifer Lawrence's film No Hard Feelings is not woke. It is safe to go and see for anyone who cares about wokeness and does not want to be exposing themselves or their children or whatever to woke films. This one's fun. It is a bit raunchy in that regard, so maybe not for your kids, but if you're an adult or whatever, you have nothing to worry about in terms of wokeness. It's pretty safe for the most part, and yeah, it's just a fun and lighthearted time as well, so I definitely recommend it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and got something useful out of it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll be making more of these Was It Woke videos as we go along, and yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.